I wanted to touch back on something you said with getting followers. And that's getting followers is one thing, but reach, the word reach, is far more important. Can you tell me a little bit about that difference between getting followers and then reach, and how it would be measured and what we would use to create reach?
Yeah. So the reason why I love the phrase tweet reach, and there's a site for this, tweetreach.com, is that there is an obsession with the amount of followers that you personally have. And there's an obsession, so much so that people are even tempted to buy followers. And please, let me decode, do not do this. Do not buy followers. Do not. I'm telling you now, just don't do it. But so many reasons. But there's an obsession with getting followers on your own, under your own name, under your own banner. But if you take that example of that on one particular day, even though I have 30 or 31,000 followers, 3 million people were reached, and I measured this on TweetReach, then that is 100 times more powerful than I could have done on my own. Mm-hmm. So what TweetReach does, tweetreach.com, is it measures not only your followers, but all of the followers that retweet you on any given day. So if you go to tweetreach.com and just type in your Twitter handle, and also it works really well with hashtags you're using for an event, you can measure very, very clearly, in about 10 seconds, how many people had the potential to see your tweets. Totally irrelevant to how many followers you personally have. Mm-hmm. And this is a much stronger measurement for really measuring engagement in the Twitterverse. Mm-hmm. Because for two reasons. It stops the obsession about followers, and it stops you even being tempted to buy them. And it stops you being depressed that because you've just started you don't have too many. I've actually done a whole series of little screen capture videos on my Vimeo channel about this idea that on one particular account, Keith Keller Melb, MELB, I have 340 followers because I've just started, and I've specifically set that Twitter account up for newbies to Twitter, Keith Keller Melb, if you want to follow it. I just tweet twice a day, really very basic information about Twitter. But I measured my tweet reach on the day that I did that video, and it was 58,000. So from an account that had 345 followers, I reached 58,000 people. Mm-hmm. What is that? That's like 200 times more powerful. Talking about the numbers, 345,000 followers got my stuff. 58,000 people had the potential to see my stuff based on all the other people that were retweeting me.
Right.
That's the power of tweet reach. Mm-hmm. And it's a really powerful idea, isn't it?
Well, yes, it is. But just figuring out what to tweet on Twitter. We've talked about this briefly when we talked about the 140 characters. But, how does one create the Twitter or message, or what sites would you recommend?
You're talking about the core message, the actual content to tweet?
Yes. What would that be? How are they determining, besides being very economical and choosing, creating titles, headlines, like you said, newspaper headlines for their tweets, and kind of masterminding those? I'm not trying to make it out like a full art, but it does require some thinking. How is it that they would, know what to tweet?
Yeah, well, I think if you get your head around the idea of the 80-20 rule, let's say we take that as a given. We take this as a given, the 80-20 rule. This idea of share, then ask, which is Gary Vee's really cool phrase. Share first, then ask for help. If we take that as a given, the big question often becomes, well, where do I find this material? Mm-hmm. Where do I find this material, and how do I turn it into a tweet that's of use to my followers and my friends? So there's two parts to that question. The first part is the content, which I often use Paper.li, Paper.li. This is my favourite site in the Twitterverse. It is a fantastic way to source content. You can have your own digital newspaper, the Keith Keller Daily. In fact, I do have my own Paper.li. It's called Twitter for Creatives, twitterforcreatives.com. with the numeral 4. And every day at 9 a.m. Melbourne time, it curates stuff from the internet with 25 different topics: social media, Twitter, Melbourne, Australia, Texas chicks, Melbourne dudes. It just picks topics that I'm interested in. And it makes it into this really lovely looking newspaper which has my brand on it. It's a completely free service, although there is an upscale paid version which is $9 a month. And what that does is once a day, every day, at 9 a.m, you can choose the time, it'll give you your own newspaper, and then you just pick 4 or 5 articles that you like. I might tweet something about Melbourne, I might tweet something about Australia, I might tweet something about Twitter. And it also curates your own content, so when you get very, very good at this, it'll give the content that you've created priority, and then it'll fill out the rest of the newspaper with other content from other people. So that's the first thing. You can find content at Paperly, Paper.li. But then you've got to decide, well, okay, now I've got this big long article, the 25 greatest ways to get more followers on Twitter. That might be the title of the article. So you've got to then truncate that into get followers 25 tips.
Right.
And then you might create a bit.ly link, and I'll come to that in a minute, a bit.ly link or a tiny URL, because typically these blog posts or these things you find have really, really long links. keithkeller.com.au/get found fast using Twitter with 25 tips from Chelsea Benham. .html. That's typically the length of these really ridiculously long links. So you use a site called tinyurl.com or another one called bit.ly, bit.ly, and it shortens the link to about 10 characters. Really clever, completely free. Really clever, completely free. The best kind of advice you can get, yeah?
Right.
I use tinyurl, but bit.ly as well. They're both equally good, just a matter of which you prefer, which suits you. Sometimes one side is down, so I use the other. But at the moment, I'm using tinyurl.com. It just seems to be quicker for me. But bit.ly also works.
Well, what about scheduling your tweets? I get this all the time about the lack of time and how to do social media, and is there a way to curtail redundancy when posting out? So how would you, or what would you recommend for people when we're talking about scheduling tweets ahead of time?
Yeah. So scheduling in itself is a paradigm shift. It's a concept that some people just will never do. This idea that tweets are in real time and I have to be doing it live is a time sucker. It is a time sink. You will never keep up with your Twitter if you just only tweet live. No wonder you're not doing it if that's why you do it. So there's a number of sites, and my favourite is Buffer. Buffer app, bufferapp.com. And what it does is you just tell Buffer once a day or once at the start of the process, you know what I want to do? I want to tweet every day at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. because that's what I reckon people are interested in, what I want to say. So you set a parameter, 8 a.m., 8 p.m. I want to tweet twice a day. And any time you come across a great article on the internet, you just simply cut and paste it and put it in your Buffer. You pick it up and you put it in your bucket. Unbelievable. Yeah?
Yes.
So time efficient. So you're on the net, you come across a great article on the internet, you cut and paste, put it in your Buffer. Forget, that took 5 seconds. You're doing your work, you come across a great YouTube video, you cut and paste, put it in your Buffer. And the way Buffer works is you can have 10 in your Buffer for free, and then once you run out, you just top it up again. Or the $10 unlimited version means that you can have unlimited tweets in your Buffer, and you never have to top it up. You never have to remember to top it up. You're working anyway. Just cut and paste, put it in your Buffer. I checked yesterday. I've got tweets going out 4 times a day for the next 6 weeks. Because I'm just so into this, that I just find an article good. No worries. Put it in my Buffer. I'll put that out later. busy now. So you're working away, typing up your blog, working on your video, out at a gig. You know, you put it, and because you get really quick at it, suddenly your tweet stream is very rich with content that people are interested in, and it doesn't take very much time. It's the best of both worlds, isn't it?
It is. It's amazing. It's new, isn't it? Fairly new.
Well, just today, I found out that Buffer now has 1 million users. They just cracked 1 million users today. Very exciting. They're very good friends of mine, San Francisco. And there's a number of these, Hootsuite, Gremlin, TweetDeck. They all work in a very similar way. I just personally prefer Buffer. And I love that price point. There is a free version, and you just top it up every time you use 10. So if you're tweeting twice a day, you have to top it up every 5 days. If you tweet once a day, you have to top it up every 10 days, which is not too hard. But I have the unlimited version because I'm always constantly coming across stuff. And as I said, I've got now tweets going out 4 times a day, 7 days a week for the next 6 weeks.